I had a magical moment recently on May 2nd because, like all of us, I got up to start my day and I got out of the shower and I looked in the mirror and all of a sudden my eyes closed. And when I opened my eyes, I saw a 13-year-old busboy in a very funky gold and black embroidered jacket, which was my first busboy uniform. And I remembered vividly, in every detail, the first day on the job, the nerves, the excitement. And all of a sudden, I was thinking about that wonderful movie, Titanic. And I was thinking about that scene where the Kate Winslet character, all those years later, is on the back of the boat, and without a single word, only a nuance, she closes her eyes and she could feel the breeze and the salt and the experience of what moved her so deeply all those years before. And that's the way I felt. 50 years later, I could close my eyes and I could see the candles lit in the banquet room. I could see the maitre d' pointing to the band and say, okay, are you ready? Looking at the head waiters, looking at the waiters, looking at the busboys and said, are you ready? We are ready. Okay, open the doors and let the guests in. Well, what happened? All of a sudden, the guests come in, they're all dressed up, they're all on their best behavior. The alcohol is being served. The room is filled with music and laughter and joy and festivity. And I said, and you get paid to do this? Wow, that is great. 50 years later, 160 countries later, many people, some of my friends, including, tease me and say, well, Jerry knows a lot of people. Well, why does Jerry know a lot of people? Because in the course of 50 years, if you serve with all your heart and soul, you don't have to worry about the outcome. There's a really beautiful Native American saying that you cannot stop running water. And when you serve with your soul and you have that pride and that joy in your work, it's going to come that way. So what happened that afternoon? Something changed in me because I said to myself, wow, I now have a renewed focus because what will Act 2 be now that I've finished the first 50 years of Act 1? And I said to myself, my renewed purpose, my mission, my belief, and what I would like to dedicate the great years ahead is to make sure that those who serve are recognized. Now, I take exception with the Latin word. There's two words that trouble me, and I hope they trouble you. And one is subservient, and the other is, when you work with people, subordinates. In my world, service is nobility of thinking. It's nobility of doing, because you're enriching what the great Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa calls Ubuntu, the humanity that draws us all together. So I said, I'm going to double down and refocus my mission, and I'm very, very blessed because the people that I work with at Forbes Travel Guide all share that same belief system. They share that same mission. And I said, we are going to dedicate ourselves to the millions of people around the world who serve with the intention of bringing joy and festivity and happiness to those who are traveling. The second community is a practical community because in our industry now of tourism, $7 trillion a year, 3 billion people who took air travel. In that business now, it has never been more difficult to own or operate one of these businesses. So the industry, even though it's growing exponentially, and those numbers that you hear are expected to double by 2030. Tourism globally is not slowing down, but yet it has never been more difficult to own or operate hotels, restaurants, cruise ships, travel agents, airlines, and the industry is in trouble. So rather than have an evaluation service, which we were in 1958 in the start of our company, criticized the industry, I said, we're going to change it, because I have a very beloved friend whose name is Horst Schulze. And when he was a boy like me, he did something that I was incapable of doing. And I believe when he was 15 years old, he wrote that saying, which became the mantra for Ritz-Carlton hotels: ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. How I wish I wrote that. But when I took this job over 3 years ago, I went to sit with my friend Horst Schulze, and I said, you inspire me, and I will dedicate the years ahead with the wonderful people that I'm associated with, because while we are not in the direct position now of ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be innkeepers serving our fellow innkeepers, because we know the burden of service. We know how much it takes on a daily basis to give of yourself unconditionally all the time. So I made a renewed commitment that morning that my life's work going forward, our mission of a team, would be to serve our industry, more importantly, to serve those people who are serving on a daily basis and are usually unrecognized. And then the third thing is we have to have a practical remedy for what's happening with the guest worldwide. Now, before I talk about the guests for a moment, I would like to say that there was years ago, not that many years ago, 30 years ago, where most countries of the 238 countries in the world did not have a Ministry of Tourism. Now, 157 countries have a Ministry of Tourism. Why? Why are governments, city governments, state governments, countries creating ministries of tourism? Because people are traveling. Now, if you understand the travel business or don't understand the travel business, the evidence is just in what happened in the last 20 years of airports. Everywhere you travel, airports have improved. They become metropolises. You've got great restaurants, retail. You have a full experience, and now you don't dread, until you get on the plane, you don't dread a half an hour at the airport. You might not even dread 2 hours at the airport, okay? You don't see governments selling planes, you see governments buying planes. And now what happened is that some governments that said, oh, well, that's a secondary portfolio, let me give it to my cousin that helped me on the campaign. Now, most governments are taking the best and brightest man and woman in the room and saying, we would like you to be Minister of Tourism. Because what's happening is that they're finding that these jobs by the millions are the ones that create economic activity right away, because you're hiring people that don't need PhDs in applied mathematics from Harvard. It has a big effect on the community in terms of employment. It has a gigantic effect in terms of foreign currency exchange and the positive effect that has just on the economy. So all of a sudden now, governments are waking up that tourism is actually a big economic engine. Now, you look in the United States, you look at two basic manufactured cities, and let's roll the clock back just 40 years, 50 years. Look at Orlando as an experiment, which one time, not unfair to say, the citizens of Orlando would say, yeah, we were pretty much swampland for a while. 68 million people visited this year. You look at Las Vegas, where I went to school, and you say, desert was nothing out there. 44 million people went to Las Vegas this year. 60 million people in New York. 43 million people in Los Angeles. Look what happened overnight in Dubai. Because the vision of Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum said, we want to welcome people and we want to be the heart and soul of the Middle East and one of the great cities. Look what's happened. It's become not just an architectural wonderland, but it's so diversified that people really have a great time, and the average length of stay is moving in Dubai. Look at Singapore, that experiment over the last 50 years, because of the vision of Lee Kuan Yew. Okay, so now what happened is that we have to be practical, and we have to admit where the problems are. And the problems are that as the commercial institutions saw what was happening with travel, they said, we're going to take advantage of this, especially with what happened on the internet, because now with the internet and the availability of information, People will be liberated because now they can travel, they can go, they can see, and we will take advantage of that because people are traveling in unprecedented numbers. But a major flaw was done in the architecture of what we call online travel agents, OTAs, because they said to themselves, we are so big and we have such an opportunity to turn people over that we don't really have to service them. Because if we lose 4 or 5% of the people who use us during the year, we're growing at 30, 40, 50, 100%. So what does it matter if we have a 5% fallout? Okay? I want to pause a second, and I want you to mentally picture something. Think about if you're at a point in your life where you can afford a Rolex watch or a Chanel handbag. Do you realize that when you walk into Rolex in any city of the world, any country, or Chanel, you never walk through the front door saying, I wonder if I'm going to get the real watch today or if I'm going to get the fake watch. I wonder if I'm going to get the knockoff bag or the fake bag. You never think about that. And when was the last time you walked into those 100 great brands and you saw a big sign over the counter that said 40% off today? Never, right? And you definitely don't walk up to the counter and you see someone that says, take €500 off the watch and I'll buy it. Never. Why? Well, now we're more sophisticated. The brand people will say, that's brand integrity. But what I would suggest to you is that brand integrity was earned over hundreds of thousands of transactions where the person that went in said, I will do my end of the bargain by paying you the premium you're asking for your product, but you got to do your end of the bargain because that's what I expect from you. Now, what happened in travel is that the OTAs, by and large, and other commercial vehicles, in the expansion of travel and tourism globally, they broke that promise. You went online and you said, this is a 5-star experience. This is a 6-star experience. This is a 7-star experience. This is a 3-star experience. And then you went and paid that money and you got there and it wasn't what you paid for and you realized, uh-oh, I got the fake Rolex or the fake Chanel handbag. So what happened, especially in the last 10 years? There is a crying out globally on who do I trust? Who do I trust? So what happened is with Forbes Travel Guide now, we were just in America. Now we're in 60 countries, soon to grow to 90 countries, but we put in a meritocracy, a transparent meritocracy as a remedy that say, you cannot, with your advertising spend, influence the 5-star, the 4-star, or the 3-star. There is no such thing as a 6-star or a 7-star because when was the last time you heard of a platinum medal at the Olympics? Okay? Now, I'm very pleased that the media have been kind to us over the last few years by calling us the verifier of luxury hospitality similar to the Olympics. So what we're doing in our profile is we've created a global meritocracy that soon the remedy will be there because we are serving our community. We're the largest trainer in the world now where we go into luxury operations with the purpose of strengthening the self-esteem of the workforce because you cannot have sustainable excellence without a great culture. And you cannot have the great culture without people believing in themselves, especially in service, which is so giving. So now we serve the employees and the self-esteem by being omnipresent as innkeepers. We serve the innkeepers and the owners by saying, this is how you'll be rewarded by those guests, because if you give them what they pay for and you give them meaningful experiences, you're gonna have very happy people and that will help you. The final thing that I wanted to share upon you where we're going with this globalization is that we're 2 years away from being in all 238 countries. And then you have the right to go back to the guest and say, relax, now it's okay. Because now it doesn't matter about brand, of course it does, but now if you're going to that city and you see that recommended 3-star or you see the 4-star, which is the Olympic gold medal, the 4-star, And people say to me, okay, Jerry, you have 175 five-star hotels in the world. Aren't those your Olympic gold medal? No, no, no. That's Michael Phelps. That's Meryl Streep. That's Bob De Niro. Those are operations that consistently, year after year, look after their guests with such a dedication and devotion that they achieve that status. Only 175 in the world. So we are in the process of this remedy now, and we're looking forward to keeping everybody informed. Two quick things about servants like myself. I was at a speech in Dubai last year, and somebody read the bio and talked about some of the people I knew, and a young man got up, very well appointed, and he said, you know what? We really appreciate you being here, but we're never going to be you. You're the Great Wall of China. And I started laughing because it's so preposterous, right? So I said, please don't look at it that way because you're looking at a long career. Understand that with relationships are like a brick. There'll be days you'll collect one brick. There'll be days you'll collect two magical days, and there'll be days you'll break a brick. Don't worry about that. Because if you collect a brick a day, fulfill the relationship, serve with all your heart and passion, 50 years later, you will be that wall. That's what this service is all about. The other little anecdote is that I was in Beijing, and I like to speak with young people, and one of the audience members got up and said, I am an accounting major, and I'm thinking of changing my business to the hotel business. Is it a hard profession? I said, well, if you love it, no, but I'll give you the equivalent. If you're in a marathon race in the Olympics and there's only 2 boats left for the Olympic gold medal, you got to row, row, row. You're tired. You got to burn in your hands. You got to burn in your legs. That's what being in travel and tourism is. And on the open mic, she said to me, wow, that sounds really, really tough. And I said, well, the only part I left away from you is that in the Olympics, there's a finish line. In the hotel business, there's no finish line. 50 years later, you're still rowing and rowing and rowing. So we feel very dedicated to our industry. Travel is growing. For the young people listening, we're going to need hundreds of thousands of people to come into community. I will tell you that service is noble. Please come, and I will close by quoting Shakespeare, which a busboy from Brooklyn doesn't usually do, by saying a quote that Juliet said to Romeo, and that is, the more I give to thee, the more I have. Thank you very much.